You're back for another bridge between books. Forewarning, this book is a bit upsetting, but it highlights so much about the evils, emotions, and enduring bravery of ancient war. The aftermath of Patroclus's death is the most intimate, shocking fight ever yet in the Iliad. Book 17 begins immediately after the death of Patroclus, who was killed by Hector in book 16. The focus of this book is the intense battle over Patroclus's body as both sides struggle to claim the corpse. Menelaus, the brother of Agamemnon and the used to be husband, and I guess maybe we can still say husband, of Helen before she was kidnapped by Paris, is the first Greek to notice that Patroclus has fallen. Determined to defend the body of his fallen comrade, Menelaus positions himself over Patroclus to prevent the Trojans from desecrating the corpse or taking his armor. That's the thing. Desecrating the corpse is part of ancient warfare. The Trojan warrior Euphorbus, who had been wounded by Patroclus before Hector delivered the fatal blow, now challenges Menelaus. Euphorbus boasts of his early success in striking Patroclus and engages Menelaus in combat. Despite Euphorbus's earlier boasting, Menelaus proves to be the stronger warrior, killing Euphorbus by forcing the Trojans back temporarily. After Menelaus kills Euphorbus, Hector arrives on the battlefield. Hector, who had taken Achilles' armor from Patroclus's body, now advances to claim the corpse itself. When Hector approaches, Menelaus realizes he cannot hold off the Trojans alone and calls for help from the other Greek warriors. Before Hector can reach Patroclus, Menelaus and Ajax the Greater join forces to defend Patroclus's body. Ajax, the massive Greek warrior, stands beside Menelaus to prevent Hector from advancing further. Glaucus, a Lycian ally of Troy, rebukes Hector for not immediately securing Patroclus's body and taking advantage of the situation. Glaucus criticizes Hector for achieving Achilles' armor, but failing to protect his comrades and finish the fight decisively. Hector, stung by this criticism by Glaucus, rallies the Trojan forces to continue fighting fiercely over the body of Patroclus. The fighting around Patroclus's body becomes increasingly intense, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The Greeks and Trojans clash, and the battlefield is filled with absolute chaos. Both armies recognize the significance of controlling Patroclus's body as a symbol of honor and morale. Athena, disguised as Phoenix, and maybe you remember Phoenix as someone who Achilles very much admires. It's kind of like a father figure to him. But it's not really Phoenix, it's Athena, right? Encourages Menelaus to keep fighting, strengthening his resolve. Similarly, Apollo aids the Trojans, adding to the divine involvement in this particular battle. Hector makes several attempts to seize the body, but Ajax and the Greek warriors continually drive him back. Hector is increasingly frustrated by the Greek strong defense, and calls on his men to help him retrieve the body. Hector himself dons Achilles' armor, which he took from earlier, and leads the charge, but the Greeks remain determined to prevent him from taking the body. Despite the Greeks' fierce resistance, they are gradually forced to retreat due to the overwhelming numbers of the Trojans and their allies. So Aeneas, Hector, and other Trojan leaders press the attack, putting great pressure on the Greeks. The Trojans begin to gain the upper hand in the battle at this point. Seeing the situation worsening, Ajax sends Antilochus to inform Achilles of Patroclus's death. Achilles, still in his tent and unaware of anything that's gone on now, especially the fate of Patroclus here, must be told the tragedy so that he can act. Meanwhile, Achilles' divine horses, which had been pulling Patroclus' chariot, mourn the death of their fallen master. These horses, which were gifts from the gods, are described as their grief symbolizing the depth of the loss, not just for the horses, for Achilles, but for the entire Greek war effort. Automedon, Achilles' charioteer, tries to rally the horses and continue fighting, but finds it difficult to hold his position in the battle without Patroclus there. The horses' grief adds a poignant, almost supernatural element to the ongoing struggle. It even kind of makes me emotional, like relaying it back to you, just how absolutely mournful these innocent animals are in response to a human death. Ajax the Greater and Ajax the Lesser continue to protect Patroclus's body, driving off Hector and the Trojans time and time again. Ajax the Greater, in particular, uses his immense size and strength to shield the body, pushing back multiple attackers. Despite the heavy number that they are outnumbered. The two Ajaxes managed to prevent the Trojans from desecrating or capturing Patroclus's corpse, maintaining control of the immediate area around the fallen hero. Now here's Zeus, observing all of the battle, and he decides to give glory to Hector temporarily, allowing him to keep pushing the Greeks back. This divine intervention causes the Greeks to falter, and Hector is filled with renewed strength and confidence. So yet again, this kind of back and forth chaos. However, the Greeks still managed to hold off the Trojans from seizing Patroclus's body entirely, despite being slowly driven back. As the day draws to a close, the fighting around Patroclus's body remains unresolved. The Greeks have managed to defend the body from being taken, but they are unable to retrieve it completely and bring it back to the safety of their camp. So they're kind of like in this midway of their protection. Patroclus isn't yet safe. Both sides are exhausted from the brutal fighting, and the battle temporarily comes to a halt as night falls. So, in book 17, the fighting over Patroclus's body demonstrates the high stakes of the war now and sets the stage for Achilles' inevitable return to battle in the later books. Not to spoil it for you, but if nothing else is going to get him back into war, then I would be surprised. This is kind of the thing, last ditch effort. The desperation of both sides to control the body shows the immense value placed on honor and the fallen in the Homeric world. We get a preview for later events about how brutal, enraged, and unforgiving war can be. Everyone's honor is tested while the gods continue to use brave warriors as playthings. Patroclus' death is a huge loss to the Greeks, to the point that even their horses mourn, and in it all, there are still soldiers who are steadfast in their pursuit of victory. Thanks for listening to another installment. Book 18 is next, and its storyline, contents, and characters will be among the most memorable and everlasting for both the epic and our cultural memory in the West. Enjoy!